Hello, dear friends. Thanks for joining us on our weekly webinar. As always, with us, Dr. Michael Laitman, Boris Belotsakovsky, I'm Semyon Vinokur, and our topic today, Kabbalah is the revolution of all contradictions. So, turns out that Kabbalah can resolve all contradictions. How's that possible? Well, I actually never said that, but it's true, because it says that there are only two forces, reception and bestowal. The whole of creation, the entire world, everything's based on that. And Kabbalah is the system of how to balance these two forces, which brings them to the so-called middle line. So, the search for this middle line, stabilizing it, bringing it into balance on all levels, balancing it on all levels, from the degree of no ego, zero ego, and to the degree of an infinite, tremendous ego. It's all covered by the wisdom of Kabbalah, meaning the wisdom of Kabbalah, it is a science and practice that we need in order to really get rid of all contradictions. These contradictions aren't between something and something, or someone and someone, or some theoretical thing, but it's the contradiction between the creature and the creator, meaning between us and him. And we have to balance these contradictions. We have to bring them to a common denominator, what we call the middle line, where he and we will completely coincide in our desires, intentions, actions, and this way we will become beloved partners, connected with one another, interconnected on all possible levels, in all forces and all actions and everything. This is actually the purpose of creation, called dvikut in Hebrew, which means complete adhesion. But it is an adhesion between two completely opposite forces. A question from Chicago: why create all of this contradiction for? What is stability and harmony from the perspective of Kabbalah? Dr. Laitman, harmony is the balance between these two forces that balance one another, that support each other, expand, extend, and gradually bring to stability. Simeon, why the entire story? Let's create harmony to begin with, and that's it. Dr. Laitman, no, that's impossible. We could be in harmony, but we wouldn't feel it. It's like a newborn or some small bug or something that exists in some relative kind of harmony, but still, our existence, and especially in our world, we see that it consists of contradictions, the battle between two foundations, and therefore there's no harmony here, but only this kind of changing, shifting battle that eventually leads to a state of greater or smaller balance between these two contradicting forces. And only the wisdom of Kabbalah explains how can we attain these two counter-opposite forces, achieve such a balance between them where they will complete each other. Not annul one another, but complete each other. In our world, meaning not in the spiritual world, these two forces, they cancel one another. They try to, as if destroy one another. annul one another. And the wisdom of Kabbalah literally means the wisdom of reception. It means how to correctly build such a connection between two opposites so that between them even life could exist. Spiritual life, meaning the corporeal life, is based on simple principles, and the still, the vegetative, and the animate, they're in relative balance. There's relative balance that exists for a certain period of time, and then they die. Meaning, balance does not... It can't hold for an extended period of time, but in spirituality, it's not so. It's until it achieves complete balance on all of its degrees called complete correction. Simeon, so you're saying that life can exist only, or joy, good, can exist only between contradictions? Dr. Laitman, joy, happiness, the corporeal and the spiritual one exists only when there is a battle, and at the same time, this battle comes to balance. That's something that we do see. There can't be any kind of satisfaction, joy, sense of some kind of fulfillment, pleasure, if before that you don't feel the very opposite. Emptiness, something against, counter to it, meaning there has to be some kind of battle in order to feel its good result. And this is how it is with everything. Question, Simeon, if I feel a contradiction between my desire, my heart, and my thoughts, my intellect, what does a Kabbalist do in this situation? Dr. Laitman, well, in this world, these contradictions, they're based on a person not knowing what's controlling him, where is he, who is he in business with, meaning he has no foundations. In the spiritual world, his foundation is the Creator. The core essence is the Creator, which is the source, the basis of balance between these two forces, because he himself is the positive force, and from him emerges the negative force. Well, not from him personally, but he as if creates it so that we can exist in accordance with this negative force, in oppositeness to it, to him. And therefore everything exists in the balance between these two forces, either on the vegetative, on the still vegetative inanimate levels, where it's sustained by the Creator, or in the spiritual degree, between the attributes of bestowal and reception. It's also supported, sustained by the Creator, but already with our intervention, meaning to the extent to which we ask for Him to help us keep this balance. I'd like to read something from the article of Shamati. He who wishes to serve the Creator and serve Him doesn't immediately get an opportunity. He is examined if he doesn't have any other desires. And how do you examine that person? You give him disturbances, obstacles, in order for him to leave the path. Why interfere? What for? We're talking about the contrast, so it's clear. In order to feel something, there has to be some kind of contrast. Balasalam. Dr. Laitman, he writes about that which exists in nature. It's not harsh or anything. Can he say that something is justful or not? Because everything's attained only in the collision. Life is a battle. It really is. Only it's not a battle between me and someone, but between myself and between me and myself. In this case, if a person correctly understands this, then everything happens correctly. It all depends on, do we understand that we consist of two forces, the force of reception and the force of bestowal? We have a tremendous force of reception, our ego, but we don't have the force of bestowal. We have to gradually develop it, and it's not simple. For this, in the group, we have to somehow try and interact between us, come closer to one another. We don't want it. And at this point where I feel that I don't want it, but I'm pushing myself toward coming closer to the friends, and I don't want to. When I feel that I don't want to, here I have to turn to the Creator and to ask Him to invert it into that I will want it. So when I catch myself on that, I don't run from the battle, then I can actually achieve balance, reach balance, the middle line. What are foreign thoughts? Foreign thoughts are any kinds of thoughts that are not aimed at adhesion with the Creator, not aimed at the attribute of bestowal. So, friends, please ask. You can ask live. We have many questions. So the question is, Rina is asking, Balasuram writes that for a person not to have any other desires, how could it be? Dr. Laitman, there could be, and they're awoken in him on purpose by the Creator. It says so, that that person who the Creator loves, he all the time, there are bad thoughts awoken in him, that awaken in him, that push him away from the Creator, from the group. The Creator doesn't give him an opportunity to be connected in a good and nice way with his friends. This actually points at the fact that the Creator cares for him, meaning awakens in him very bad qualities, attributes, pushes him away from the group. Simeon, Victor is asking, if I'm just an ego, how can I become like the upper force then? Dr. Laitman, of course you are a complete ego. And you can become like the upper force only in pursuing the balance between the two forces. The one force, it awakens in you naturally. It seems to you as your egoism. You think that it's you, but it's not you. It's actually the Creator. It's something completely neutral. Between, right? Yeah. Like a kind of jelly in which there's nothing. And into this a bit cooled down jelly, in this petri dish exists this jelly, and an egoistic force awakens in it. Since it's constantly awoken, without abrupting from birth to death, without any abruption from birth to death. And it seems to a person that it's him, but actually it's not him. And further, in him awakens the opportunity to balance this negative force by the positive force. But the positive force is something that he has to independently ask of the Creator. Why? Because by asking for this positive force, he connects with the Creator, he comes closer to him, he asks the Creator to give him this positive force, for the Creator to teach him how to reach balance, how to come into balance with this positive force. so that there will be two contradicting forces in him, and between them there will be balance, which is called the third line. And it's not a third line, it's not a third force, but it's the balance between these two lines. And so the balance that appears between the left line, the egoistic one, and the right one, the altruistic one, this is called Adam, man, because in it he becomes like the creator. He controls the ego well and altruism well, and he can correctly work with them and to constantly balance them. And to rise in this balance, he is standing on this kind of swing in the middle, and he constantly balances it, and then he ascends and ascends by it. This is our work. Simeon, so he'll fall either here or there. And he falls. Dr. Laitman says he does. But the main thing is that he learns how to keep his balance, and this balance is constantly growing in him, meaning the middle line is growing on these two opposite lines, and the middle point is called Adam, man. So this is the fight between these two opposites, and the correct connection between them is symbiosis. Simeon, we have Moscow. Please, let's ask them. Moscow, please. Hello, Rav. We have a question. Does a Kabbalist have to sacrifice something in order to find this point of balance? And do we have to aspire for the maximum or limit ourselves? How do we find the correct state? Thank you. How can a Kabbalist find the correct state? Simeon, should he limit himself? Dr. Laitman, should he limit himself? How to balance himself? These are all things that we study and realize in the group, in the 10. I myself, I can't do anything, because the positive force is something that I don't have at all. The positive force that we're talking about in Kabbalah exists only in the group. The negative one exists in me. And here too, it's only the initial negative force. The truth is that when I come to the group, what do I start my work in the 10 with? By annulling myself. I want to imagine myself in the 10 as nothing, as zero, meaning that I don't exist. Neither positively nor negatively. I don't exist. I go into the 10 and I want to feel myself as zero, nothing, meaning what? The middle point, the beginning of the middle line, and then all of our egoistic forces, relations in the 10, and all of the altruistic forces that we're trying to get, all of them begin to awaken in me. And I try, in the relations between us, to constantly balance them. This way, I position myself on the level of Malchut, that from below up tries to achieve the uppermost point of Keter. That's how we work. Simeon, Sergey from New York is asking, a Kabbalist feels that he fell out of balance, and how does he come back? Dr. Laitman, a Kabbalist is constantly trying to reach balance. He's like on this rope, trying to reach balance all the time, because we understand that if he's standing on a rope, then this point of balance doesn't exist. The point of balance is created only in the balance between the right and left lines. And if he quits the work, he'll fall. This is our work. Very interesting. Boris, how can I, by my own efforts, reach annulment, or is it enough just to want it? Dr. Laitman, no, it's not just me here. The group helps, and the teachers, and the books, and studying, and the upper light. There are many different factors here. that can keep me, formulate me, and hold me this way? Question from Almata.
Almata. Они меня не слышат, да?
They don't hear me.
Нет. Ну тогда поехали дальше.
Oh, here. Hello, Dr. Laitman. My question is...
Да.
Слышно, да?
Да.
Это у нас еще транслирует.
Так, является ли, так сказать, кисть человека грубой проекцией духовного парцуфа? То есть...
Is the essence of man a projection of the Partzuf, meaning Keter Chokmah Binah, Ser Anpin, and its opposite, the Malchut? And this is a kind of middle line. I'd like to get an explanation, something that you can explain with your fingers. Dr. Laitman. There's nothing in our body that is related to spirituality in any way. We can show certain examples, but no force. We have no forces in our hands or anything else, so no point in thinking about it or trying to philosophize about anything.
Москва.
Moscow.
Прошу, Москва.
Здравствуйте, Раф.
Hello, Dr. Laitman.
Слишком сильные негативные эмоции накрывают.
When there are very serious, strong negative emotions that a person experiences, but he can't discuss it in the group, and what do I do if I can't keep it to myself, because otherwise I become depressed? Who can I talk to? I'm not in a group yet. I'm only a beginner. Dr. Laitman, who can you discuss it with if you're not in a group? With no one? I don't advise you to discuss these things with anyone at all, because no one will understand you. You have to be in a group, and then you'll be able to discuss it with the friends that are studying together with you, that also experience the same problems. Otherwise, it won't work. And if it's a beginner, if there's a campus or something like that, it's the very first degree. Dr. Laitman, if you have a group, then okay, you can ask the teacher and discuss something there. The teacher, from time to time, has to sit you together in a circle and bring you to some kind of conclusion. A person has to tell about what he feels. It's not that bad. We all go through the same states, more or less. But there's nothing new or else that you can say here or discuss, and there will be no secrets here. So, but this is only in the group. Not at home, not at work, but only with those that you're studying with. You can discuss it.
Вот у нас Рейн Шубин такой, он спрашивает такой простой вопрос. Эти вопросы меня так...
Simeon, these questions really bother me. What is the meaning of life and why live at all? Dr. Laitman, the meaning of life is in achieving your root. And our root is the one that we come from, and it exists in the Creator. We study in the wisdom of Kabbalah how the upper light comes, builds the 4 degrees of direct light, develops everything until it creates us here down below. And afterwards, we have to rise back through this ladder from below up to our very source. To ascend to that source is our task. Only then will we feel ourselves comfortable in an eternal state, in eternal rest. Boris, what can you and what can't you tell your friends about your inner states?
Я не могу вам это сказать.
I can't exactly say because you won't understand what levels we're talking about.
Я считаю, что вы должны
I think that you should simply read
20
about 20, maybe 30, the first 30 articles by Rabash,
и там он это объясняет.
and this is where he explains it.
Групповая работа, там это
About group work. This is where he explains this, meaning to discuss
состояние.
all of your different states in respect to your spiritual development, your spiritual life. This is something that you can do between yourselves inside the group and only in it. But only in it. Astana. Hello, dear Dr. Laitman. Today, we wanted to ask, what is the equilibrium between the right and left lines, between reception and bestowal? Is it in terms of the importance or something else? Balance. You're right, very good question. Balance, the balance is the balance of importance, that I accept the left line and the right line as equally important, and as if not identifying with them, but being above them. And this way I build my soul, that I build it above my animate existence. Simeon, how to realize the recommendation of Kabbalists that seem contradicting? Dr. Laitman, give me such an example, and I'll tell you why do they contradict one another or annul one another. They always complete one another. Maybe this is why it seems that way, but if you include them inside yourself, you'll see how they only supplement. Kiev.
Hello,
Dr. Laitman. Why the more good you do, the more evil is revealed? Dr. Laitman, all true? This is actually the correct realization, meaning you really did something good. If the bad is revealed to you, otherwise how? By doing good, you completed a certain degree, you corrected something in yourself, and your next degree is revealed to you, and it begins from the evil in order to give you an opportunity to correct it, this evil, and again and again. Therefore, this is how it always is, and there's a lot written about it in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Therefore, all of your good actions awaken bad results, so to speak. A fool doesn't understand this and runs away from this methodology, from this method of the wisdom of Kabbalah. The smart stays, and thanks to that, he advances. It's the same as it is in science. The more a person studies, the more he feels that he doesn't understand, and the more questions he has. And someone that doesn't study, doesn't learn, there's nothing so special about it. He doesn't really understand what's going on. It's on all levels of attainment. And so it says, you increase your wisdom, you increase your pain, so to speak, but it leads you to even greater knowledge. And again, we have to then balance the right and left lines and to exist between them. Simeon, how can a Kabbalist run away from bad, foolish thoughts? How do you work with these thoughts that pop up in you? Dr. Laitman, a Kabbalist never runs from anything. He has to use everything in order to achieve equilibrium and balance and for the good. It's forbidden to get rid of anything. You just have to know how to bring these things into balance. And this is actually the common sense of life. Simeon, so if I have some foolish thought, what do I do? Dr. Laitman, it's not a foolish thought, it's a thought that you have to correctly relate to. It could be very unpleasant. This, I understand, could be lowly, really noble, but still, it comes from that same root, the same source, the Creator, from where all of our egoism and all of our altruism comes from. And this is how we have to correctly position ourselves. That only the balance between them is our goal. Therefore, by no means should you push away any thought, any desire from yourself, the nastiest one, the worst possible one, that in the first instant you'll want to instinctively get rid of it, but the next moment you'll tell yourselves, no, this came from the Creator. If I'll throw it aside, I won't rise above Him. I have to do it even though that it's unpleasant, and to ascend, to correctly balance Him. Everything comes from the root of my soul, and He is utter evil. We're all a result of the shattering of the general soul, and therefore all of these shatterings exist in us, and they're revealed in us gradually, meaning that which now in me appear, these most beastly, dirty thoughts, desires, it's all in the root of my soul. It's a result of the shattering. If I'll push this aside, it means that I won't correct it, and then it'll either return to me in a different form after a few degrees, but still. So you shouldn't push anything aside or away, but to accept it all in a good way, in order to act correctly with it. And therefore, a Kabbalist gradually learns how not to relate to everything that he goes through personally. It's not me. It's that which awakens in me. Now, I wanted to poison someone. Later, to rape someone. Later, to steal something from someone. To lie, to cheat, to this, to that. All of these dirty, bad thoughts, it all comes from the opposite qualities. In my root, I was in a state of adhesion with the Creator, and afterwards it became inverted, the complete opposite to the Creator, and this is what I'm experiencing now. So why reject this? I have to correct it. This is what it was given to me for, and that the Creator on purpose awakens in me the next level of my correction, so that I'll correct this and I'll rise another degree, and I reject it because it seems unpleasant. Why unpleasant? It's like a surgeon who opens up a patient and sees inside there all of his as if filthy things. So what? It's life. You have to be a bit more mature about it. We're getting used to it, don't worry. Soon you'll stop worrying that who you are is becoming revealed to you.
Вопрос из Москвы. Желание и намерение.
Boys, the desire and the intention, they're always in contradiction. Desire and intention, says Dr. Laitman. I'd say that this is relatively already a certain degree. If the desires are certain and opposite to the intention, then this is already a person who understands what the intention is. Dr. Laitman, yes. Simeon, if I really do something good and you get only bad things in return, so it means that in order to do good, you have to do harm. Dr. Laitman, yeah, you don't have to do harm. You don't have to do evil. It awakens in us. You only have to, it appears in us naturally. You only have to try and remake it, reformat it. Come with it to the group, bring it to the group, and through the group, to ask for correction. Our entire work is only in asking the Creator to correct the evil and invert it to good. And the evil is determined not by the evil itself, but by its inability to become a part of our connection in the 10. Only this way. Meaning, it could seem to me as some big kind of evil, but really, it can help me to correctly enter the 10. And then, it won't look this way. Maybe it'll be felt many times smaller, or maybe not even as evil. So here I have to all the time measure myself. Simeon, why is the purpose of creation then in such contradiction? Dr. Laitman, because we went through a shattering, and therefore all the thoughts and desires that awaken in us, they're negative, they're opposite to the Creator, they're opposed to the 10. And this is how we have to relate to whatever awakens in us, only to measure those awakening desires and thoughts in us, meaning the heart and mind. The desires from the heart and the thoughts from the mind, there are only these two parameters. We have to all the time examine to what extent are they helping us or are opposite to our connection. This is the only way that we can see their height, whether it's positive or negative. Simeon, so how do these forces that want to erase each other, how can they reach supplementation? They're completely the complete opposite. Well, it is the middle line between that which exists. Simeon, but a person can't do it. Dr. Laitman, it's the Creator that does it, but we have to ask Him, we have to force Him to do it, for Him to balance these two opposite forces. Peter.
Я вас не слышу, девушка.
I can't hear you.
А сейчас?
Да.
And now? Yes.
Здравствуйте, Раф.
Hello, Dr. Laitman.
Как не уйти в фантазии и философию при желании
How not to plunge into philosophy and fantasy
науки Каббала?
due to what you experience as a feeling when you study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Dr. Laitman, only if you realize it in a group, and if not in a group, then there is no point in even trying to advance, because for sure it'll be philosophy, and this will lead you in a completely different direction, and as a result you will not attain anything. Thank you. Simeon, how can I push myself if my desire is in a state of, I don't wanna? Dr. Laitman, of course you don't wanna. But it's the same as asking of the Creator now, take me back, please. Meaning to that initial point of creation where I completely was annulled, I didn't exist. Can you do that, please? Can you annul me? So I'll become like that point. It's impossible to be less than a point. I'd like to be less than a point. This is the
когда человек
most terrible way to turn to the Creator, where a person actually says that he disagrees
тем, что сделал Творец.
with everything made by the Creator.
Естественно, в нас
But
возникает.
this is something that appears in us naturally. Naturally,
Презираем нашу жизнь,
when we
что с нами происходит.
think that our thoughts, our desires are despicable, that we suffered and we're fed up with this world and everything in it.
Ужасное состояние.
It's a terrible state, but
Но надо приподняться над ним
you have to rise a bit above it
и увидеть, что все
and see that it's all made in order to push us out of it, out of this world,
попроси,
so that we'll ask, so that we'll want, so that some way we'll try to jump above it and ask the Creator to lift us,
смотрели на все
for us to look at all of these
возникательные силы, свойства,
appeering contradicting forces, attributes, events, as something that's given to us
мы не сможем двигаться
in order to achieve balance. Without it, we can't advance. Therefore, everything that appears as an opportunity to jump above it
Так вот мы постоянно
to the next degree and the next one. This is how we constantly advance. Therefore, don't look at this world as at something done by the Creator. He,
изуверствует.
on purpose,
И выскочили на следующую ступень и так далее.
deviates it or
Алексей из Днепра.
twists it in order for us to come out to the next degree.
Что я должен положить на
Boys, what do I have to put on the scale?
Взвесить желание
Again, please. When I have to consider my thoughts and desires, what do I have to put on the other side of the scale? Dr. Laitman, the connection between us and the Creator.
Вот Третьяков
Семен.
спрашивает, имя не пишет, к сожалению. Раф и учителя, не понимаю вашу трактовку.
Doctor, I don't understand the way you relate to the Creator. You call him nature. Doesn't it contradict the concept of the Torah that talks about the Creator as a persona? Dr. Laitman, no way, by no means. If this is how you look at things, it means that you are coming to idolatry. Idolatry. The Creator is the force of bestowal and love, and in Him there is no way, form, anything concrete. It's the force of bestowal and love that fills all of creation. And above it is that same force, only it's called Atzmuto, meaning regardless of any connection with us, and therefore we can't call it any way. Simeon, because it says about the Creator that He is great, almighty, furious, this, that. Dr. Laitman, it's like with us. It's like a mother and a father in relation to their small child, to their little child, that this is what he can tell about them. But it's not them. It's the attitude that they show toward him in order to awaken some kind of reaction in him, correct actions to form him. But actually, it's not him. And these qualities do not exist in him. Dr. Laitman, he himself has no qualities besides the quality of bestowal and love, and that too only in relation to us. And beyond that, we can't talk about who and what he is at all. Simeon, what is nature? Dr. Laitman, nature is everything that we exist in. Inside what we exist. And therefore it said that the Creator is called Elohim in Hebrew, which in Gematria, and its numerical value, equals nature. And it says about it in many Kabbalistic books, and what you're saying that it contradicts the Torah, or you're simply wrong about that. You have to learn a bit more. Boys, how can we reject the right line in order to come to the left, or to come to the middle line? Dr. Laitman, you don't have to reject anything. The middle line develops, appears in the correct connection between the right and the left. Thanks to the right and the left lines does this middle line exist. And on the other hand, you can say that the right line becomes right only because against it there's the left line. And the realization of these two lines, the right and the left, is actually in the middle line. Meaning there can't be just one existing line and then it's going to be the middle line. It won't. It'll be the right or the left. But they exist in contradiction to each other, and by doing so, define one another. Boris, how do I know that it's the middle line? Dr. Laitman, you achieve it through balance. It's just like being on some kind of rope, hanging in the air, standing on it, balancing yourself.
So, шест?
Шест, да. И вот вы пытаетесь все время быть равновесным.
And you try to all the time be in balance.
Забудете про то,
If you'll forget about
находить равновесие между правой и
the need that you have to find the balance between the right and left lines all the time, you won't have a middle line then. So it doesn't exist as is, but it exists as the sum total of these two. Simeon, what about being a man, overcoming? What is a person? What qualities does he need most? Dr. Laitman, most of all, a person needs two qualities. The recognition of one's own nothingness, weakness, and stupidity. And that's it. Simeon, and this is manlyhood. Dr. Laitman, to achieve a state where you're stupid, weak, and actually nothing, completely dependent on the Creator, this is the highest point, because it's the truth. And everything else is just boyish egoism. Egoism. Boris, about nature, from Yekaterinburg, a question. When I use the force of electricity or something, what am I supposed to ask for? Why, in interacting with the force of nature, I have to reach Dr. Laitman. When we're in the framework of our nature, the still, vegetative, or the animate, and we ourselves, we also are a part of the animate nature and our corporeal existence, then on these levels, we are in a state of, we're a part of nature, and there's nothing to ask for. We just have to know how to get around and to learn nature, study its rules, and try and to somehow realize them correctly. And even though that we want to rise to the spiritual degree, the next degree of our existence, then there we enter completely different relations. We enter the relations with the Creator there, and therefore we're constantly connected. We're focused on Him. He turns to us, we turn to Him, and in this appeal of ours to Him, when we want to become like Him, we make ourselves like the Creator, which is called the soul. Vienna.
Hello, Dr.
Laitman. How to balance the thought and your speech? Dr. Laitman, well, in general, this has nothing really to do with the wisdom of Kabbalah. These are all technologies of our world, techniques in our world. Or do you mean a spiritual thought and spiritual speech, but it's not the verbal communication that we're familiar with, or our thinking gadget? I mean the spiritual one. Dr. Laitman, there's nothing to add, there's nothing to balance here. We have to balance on this rope, on this middle line, in order to balance our attribute of reception and our attribute of bestowal. We have to reach a balance between them for both of them to be directed at giving contentment to the Creator, and it has nothing to do with our words. Moscow. Hello, Dr. Laitman. The truth is revealed in the balance. Why does the mind constantly try to push you out of this? Dr. Laitman, it doesn't. What it tries is to awaken in us a feeling of disbalance, like someone who's trying to balance himself on a rope. So it's the complete opposite. And in general, our entire life is in order to give us a feeling of disbalance so that we'll all the time find a higher and higher point of balance and ascend this way. And this point of balance, it becomes ever newer, not in its quantity, but in its quality. That's something that we'll later feel on ourselves. Simeon, you're talking about tens all the time. How did you achieve such a high degree if you were never in 10, but you were with your teacher all the time? Dr. Laitman, yeah, I had a different path. I already talked about it. I told this to my students that actually, this wasn't the way I advanced. And I don't think that you can be envious of me in this respect, because in a 10 it's all much more practical, quicker. So before you there's a very direct, straight path, very clear method, and very practical, directing you in this and the method. You're immediately in a 10. You're immediately correctly doing things. I never had this. It's a kind of a shifting phase between those Kabbalists that were together with their teachers, something here, something there. And you? What can you do? At some point you'll see how it's better or worse. I think that you lucked out. I envy you, in a good way. Alexander is asking, the influence of the Creator changes regarding me if I change, or how does that work? Simeon says, do I change, or does he change? Dr. Laitman, it doesn't matter what and how. It's not something that I can, determine. We're talking about our world, that it is what I feel. But what I feel is changed by the weather. The weather changes, the environment changes, society changes. But on the other hand, Kabbalah explains that it's all in me. All in me. Society, mankind, the weather, and everything, including everything, it all exists in me. I only see it outside of myself as still vegetative and animate degrees. My personal ones, only I see them on the outside. So that's how it goes. Meaning by changing myself on the inside, I change the world on the outside, and to the contrary, the world on the outside appears this way to me in order for me, by changing myself, will see the outcome of my changes. Do you understand? We see on the screen outside of ourselves, 360 degrees around me, there is a screen, and on it I watch, I see the changes that happen in me. It's this on the human level, on the animate level, on the vegetative, on the still level. These are the 4 degrees of desire that change in me, and this way they project themselves on this external screen, like in the cinema or something. And this with this round kind of screen. Simeon, so it's something that helps me. Dr. Laitman, of course. By changing myself, I see how much the world changes, and it could be to the contrary. There are two approaches here. Either I, by changing myself, change the world around me and it changes for the better, or I don't change myself, the surrounding world changes in order to force me to change, meaning it's either the Creator that pulls me forward by positive forces or pushes me from behind by negative forces. This is all something that I see on the screen around me. And what are these four seasons and everything? For example, asks Simeon, Dr. Laitman, these are the four phases of direct light that are realized in us this way. Everything's divided into 3, 5, 10 parts. This is actually my inner world already that is reflected this way outwards. Dimitri from Kiev is asking, when I feel bad, I feel empty, what should I start doing? According to the wisdom of Kabbalah, change myself, change my thoughts, start thinking about something. Will it help me? When I feel bad, first and foremost, I start reading none else besides him. This is the first article in the book of Shemati. Yes. Afterwards, I can read Psalms by King David. Afterwards, I can take some lessons. Watch some lessons. In short, we have many such articles, things that can help at difficult times. But the best thing is to just plunge yourself in the group. If you have the ability to connect somehow to the group, or to find some kind of an interesting lesson, some kind of fragments. I had such fragments written down, because back then there were no computers or anything. You can collect it on your computer or even on your mobile. You can collect special fragments that are interesting to you, and you push the button, and on the screen you see something for a bad mood, for a good mood, and so on. So, on purpose, you build this zone, of course. Otherwise, how can you develop if in advance I don't know? I knew in advance that I'm going to feel bad. It's like in our world that we create some kind of medical fund for ourselves for difficult times. Simeon, so it'll come at a certain point. Dr. Laitman, for sure. No point in even thinking about it. If a person prepares himself for it, then in advance, he as if prevents these events. And if he prepared himself, then, they just kind of skip over him, so to speak. The Creator says, why do it if he already prepared himself? Boys, in Peter, there are meetings now right after our webinar. Specialists in all kinds of fields studying Kabbalah. And wait for webinars and everything. You can find all these things immediately in the comment section. And in this video, you can discuss those questions that interest you, and if you can give us a task for the week, then we can discuss it and answer immediately. Dr. Laitman, I don't know what to tell you. Yesterday we had a Congress. International Virtual Congress. Obviously, it's recorded. We have it in our archive. I'd recommend you, even if you watched it, there are people who watched it. Maybe there were those that didn't watch it. I recommend you to take all the lessons from that Congress and watch them over again. Or watch them for the first time, doesn't matter. There are 4 lessons, even though that each of them is 2 hours long, and try and to work with it. Maybe you write something for yourself.
по частям смотреть.
You can watch it in parts, but I recommend you to do this. Besides, obviously, every morning we have the morning lesson, our time from 3 to 6. I also recommend you, if you can, if you have the time, to watch these lessons. Besides, all in all, there's a tremendous amount of materials that you didn't study it. Study it. Everything is ahead. I wish you very serious advancement. The main thing is that it's through in the group. Try that to use this time in the group correctly, in a good, nice, rational way. And you talk seriously to others, solve your questions, everything, in order to get together and to discover the Creator in that. I wish you luck and all the best. Good luck in everything, and especially in your spiritual advancement.